Welcome back to another top whatever type list. These are the top 6 Daredevil things people either get wrong or they have forgotten about when it comes to Daredevil. Alright? These are the top 6 ones I can think of. Number 6, Daredevil not having a rogues gallery. Yeah, he does. I mean, when people think of Daredevil villains, the first two people think of is Kingpin and Bullseye. And that's it, though Kingpin I'll get to number 5. But these are the other Daredevil villains, and there is a bunch of them. Aside from Bullseye, there is Black Tarantula, who actually is who actually became a anti, I think it is. Bushwhacker, Deathstalker, the Enforcers, which are Spider-Man villains, Adversaries Evil, the Jester, Karagi, Lady Bullseye, Leapfrog, the first one, Machine Smith, Man-Bull, Masked Marauder, Matador, Mr. Fear, Mr. Hyde, Nuke, Owl, Purple Man, Shock, Stiltman, Turk Barrett, Typhoid Mary. There's a bunch of them, definitely. I should point out though, people think that Purple Man, he's a Jessica Jones villain, and he's always been one. No, he hasn't. The only reason why he was considered to be a Jessica Jones villain because Brian Michael Bendis basically made him an antagonist for her in her first series. The Pearl Man started out as a Daredevil villain, and to this day, Pearl Man has always been a Daredevil villain. Kind of the same thing with let's say the Adversaries, Evil, the Enforcers. They're a group of Spider-Man villains. How many times have they fought Daredevil? Maybe a couple times, at most. Yeah, but for some reason they're listed as part of the Daredevil villains, even though they're Spider-Man villains. I think at least one of them are dead, and one's dead. The other one's part of the Black Cat's gang. I'm not sure who the other one is. But yeah, Daredevil does have his own rogues gallery. Not a big noteworthy one per se. Excuse me, but he does have one. All right. Number 5. Frank Miller being the only noteworthy fighter to get to, let's say, fame, basically, from his run. Now, there have been other good writers for it, basically, who get a lot of award-winning claim. Aside from Frank Miller, Brian Michael Bendis has received numerous awards for his awesome run for Daredevil. Brubaker has 2. There's also been Stan Lee, who was the first writer for the series. He has never received any fame. He's never received, let's say, any awards for his run because, well, he started his run back in the 60s. But he was the original writer for the book, even though his run was as long as a lot of his other books that he did. That was actually one of his more shorter runs he ever actually did for a particular book. But Frank Miller is not the only one. Like Brubaker, Brian Michael Bendis, Andy Diggle, despite the fact his run was very brief and mildly popular, but there were other noteworthy writers aside from Frank Miller. As a matter of fact, Denny O'Neil and Jim Shooter have had runs on Daredevil. Even Jerry Conway has had a run on this book. So Frank Miller is not the only really big name to actually be on the book. There's been other really big names. I think probably the biggest names to be on Daredevil aside from Frank Miller has been Kevin Smith, who did a very brief run for Daredevil. He did the Guardian Devil storyline, who some comic fans do know of him. But the thing is, when people think of Daredevil writers, the first one we'll think of is Frank Miller, despite the fact he's had a boatload of writers over the years. So, these are the other writers who've done this book, aside from Frank Miller. Kevin Smith, Danny O'Neil, Brian Michael Bendis, Ed Brubaker, Andy Diggle, Jerry Conway, Roy Thomas. Yeah, he's had a run for the book. Basically, there's been a lot of really big name writers. Even Jim Shooter, even Tony Isabel, the guy who created Black Lightning. He's had a very brief run for the book, though. Basically, he was also fired from the book after a brief period of time because apparently Lee Weekly didn't like his issues. But there's been other noteworthy writers who have written Daredevil aside from Frank Miller. Though people do sometimes think of Brian Michael Bendis and Brubaker, but people don't think of the others, despite the fact that the books have big names. Oh, almost forgot. Ann Nesenti, a woman who's had hit or miss runs for a lot of people, She has had a run for Daredevil. Her run lasted for 4 years, which to date is actually the longest run on a Daredevil book. Though Mark Waid comes close to it. Yeah, Mark Waid comes close to it. Alright. Number 4. Daredevil being a B-list hero. I have never thought of him as one. At all. I don't know why some people think of him as a B-list character. I mean, he is a noteworthy character. People do know about him. I mean, people have known about Daredevil since, people who don't read comics, people have known about this guy since I'd say the 90s, when he showed up for a couple episodes of Spider-Man. Heck, people know about him because of the Ben Affleck version. Though, I should point out that Ben Affleck is not to blame for that film. The proper blame for the film should lay with the man who wrote the script for the film. No, it wasn't Kevin Smith, it was somebody else. But yeah, Daredevil, in my opinion, has never been a B-list character. I have always thought of him as A-lister, but not as like high and mighty as like Captain America or Spider-Man, Iron Man. But he's been a big, noteworthy character. I mean, a lot of really big stories happened in the Daredevil series. I mean, yeah, he hasn't had like a franchise of books like Spider-Man and Wolverine, but he's been a big known character. I love this character. I read every single issue for this whole series, and he's just always going to be a big character, especially since, okay, if he's a B-list character, how in the world does this comic happen to have almost 600 issues? Explain that. You never heard of a B-list character having that many issues. And the fact the guy currently has a Netflix show and is on a team-up series with the other Netflix characters. So yeah, explain that to me. How supposedly, now some people thought that Iron Man was a B-list character. No, he was not. Especially since he's been involved with a lot of big noteworthy stories. As a matter of fact, whenever Marvel does a crossover, he always plays a part in it. Daredevil doesn't play a lot of big parts when it comes to big comic book crossovers that Marvel's done since the mid-80s. But he's been there. He's done some small parts. I mean, I think like the last known official time he was part of a crossover, I think, was Civil War II. And of course, he was involved a little bit with Secret Empire, but yeah. Alright. Number 3. Daredevil's counterparts in the Ultimate Universe. People don't usually talk about these particular versions of Daredevil. The first one, which is, I believe, a creation of Brian Michael Bendis. Yeah, some people probably think, oh, Daredevil never appeared in the Ultimate Universe. Yeah, he has. As a matter of fact, he's even had a mini-series, Ultimate Daredevil and Elektra. He's appeared a few times. I mean, his last unofficial time prior to being killed off in Ultimatum was in the storyline Ultimate Knights, which was an ultimate version of Daredevil's unnamed superhero team from the early 2000s. Excuse me. Which a lot of people don't really know about that particular team because Marvel never puts a damn series in trade. Don't know why. That's not all I mentioned. People don't talk about the Marvel Knights series. Not the imprint per se, the actual comic book that was called Marvel Knights, which had the main Marvel Knights characters team up to simply, well, first take on the Punisher to do other things. Basically, in the universe, it's known as Daredevil's unnamed superhero team. But this is by far the only superhero team up until Defenders, until the recent version of Defenders, where it's the only superhero team that Daredevil has ever actually formed. Yeah. 2 other noteworthy facts we don't know about Daredevil. Yep. Number 2, and this one is the most common misconception when it comes to this particular character, being a villain of Daredevil, the Kingpin. People tend to associate Kingpin with Daredevil a lot over the years, but the fault for that lays with Frank Miller, who added up his Rogues Gallery despite the fact he was already part of one particular Rogues Gallery already, and that was Spider-Man. Kingpin has been a Spider-Man villain since his debut in 1967 in Amazing Spider-Man number 50. That was his first appearance. As a matter of fact, this year is his 50th anniversary. And what did Marvel do for his 50th anniversary? Give him a very brief ongoing series that lasted for 5 issues and have him do not much else after that. I mean, yeah, he's been involved with a lot of noteworthy Daredevil storylines, per se, but he's also been involved with a lot of noteworthy Spider-Man storylines. And plus, he's also fought Captain America, the Punisher, Black Panther. Yeah, he fought Black Panther for like an arc for His previous ongoing series ended, I believe it was just a few years ago, prior to the recent one starting up. I'm trying to think though. Oh yeah, he's also fought Hercules. He's also met Hercules once, but yeah, he's been like a lot of people's villain, but basically he's been a worthy member of not only Daredevil's Rogues Gallery, but he's been a long-time member of the Spider-Man Rogues Gallery. Heck, if you look at a picture of all of Spider-Man's rogues, he is there because that is where he made his start. Some people have this common misconception that Kingpin is a Daredevil because a lot of the time whenever Daredevil appears in outside the comics, the Kingpin is never going to be there. People think, oh, Kingpin, he's a Daredevil villain. No, he is not. He has only been a Daredevil villain since the 1980s. See, the first superhero he ever fought was Spider-Man. As a matter of fact, he's been involved with a lot of Spider-Man stories, and also the fact he's been pretty much appeared in just about almost every single Spider-Man series to date. Yeah, almost every single one. Heck, there's even a version of him in the Ultimate Universe. And what book did he make his first appearance in? Ultimate Spider-Man. That is where he made his first appearance. Not in the Ultimate Daredevil Electra comic, in the Spider-Man comic book. Yep. That is number 2. Alright, and the number 1 misconception for Daredevil. People will get this thing wrong. I've seen a couple people get this little factoid wrong. I've seen Dipplezilla get this factoid wrong. Even What Culture gets this wrong too. The fact that during Mark Waid's run for Daredevil, it hit the restart button many times. This is completely untrue. It never did that. It hit the restart button once during his run. Once. And that one only time was in 2014. That was by far the first and only time that the book has ever hit the restart button during Mark Waid's 4-year run for Daredevil. It only happened once. It was right after issue 36. People think, oh, those can be relaunched multiple times. That misconception comes from the trades, not the individual issues. If you look it up, Daredevil Volume 3 lasted for 36 issues, and 4 lasted for 18 issues. Combine both of those two volumes, you have exactly 54 issues. This is a common misconception when it comes to Mark Waid's Daredevil run. It was an awesome run. A lot of people were noteworthy that you even won awards for it. But people get the factoid wrong, the fact that it was restarted multiple times during his run. This, by far, is not true at all. It was relaunched once. The only writers who've had their runs get the restart button more than once has been 2 writers, Dan Slott and Jason Aaron. Dan Slott for his run for Spider-Man. Though Brian Michael Bendis has happened for him as well. Mainly in the course of Ultimate Spider-Man, which were launched like 3 or 4 times. But not Mark Waid. As a matter of fact, none of his books, aside from Daredevil, have ever hit the restart button more than once. Or at least happened to restart. I mean, to look at his run for Avengers, how many times has the book hit the restart button? Once. The entire time. Was his run Black Widow relaunched during the time he was doing Black Widow? No, because it ended after 12 issues. So yes, the common misconception that Daredevil was relaunched more than once during Mark Waid's run is completely untrue. This is a misconception. Sorry about that. Yes, this misconception. Look, if you're going to talk about relaunches for Daredevil, okay, the Daredevil book has only been relaunched 4 times over the years. The first time was in 1998, the second time was in 2011, the third time was in 2014, and it was relaunched again just 2 years ago, 2015. 4 times. Not 5, not 10 times, only 4 times in the book's 53-year history. So, if you're going to say the book is relaunched multiple times during, let's say, someone's run, be sure you get the facts straight. Because this thing, every time people bring up like, oh, during Mark Waid's run for Daredevil was relaunched many times. This is wrong. One time, it hit the restart button. One time. Yeah, it started with number 1, yes. But that's because the book had ended and then was restarted. But during Wade's run, it hit the restart button once. And that was in 2014. And that was after releasing 36 issues. And of course, the price for the book increased from $2.99 to $3.99. And also the fact that the issue came out 1 month after issue 36 came out. Though they did later on release a one-shot that was the Road Warrior mini-series that was released digitally. But yeah, so that's it for this top 6 video. Stay tuned whenever I get a chance to do more of these. But I had to get this out there because I'm getting tired of people saying, oh, because the whole thing of basically people getting things wrong about Daredevil. A character I have a lot of respect for. I love this character. He's my favorite character. I love his comic book. But people, get your facts straight about Daredevil. Do that, please. Okay? But until, that's just my opinion anyways. You don't have to listen. It's just my opinion. You can listen to it. You can agree with me. You can disagree with me. Doesn't matter to me. It's opinionative media. I mean, like movies. Basically, people got opinions about them. People should respect them. Comic books is the same way. It's an opinionative market. But my opinion should not drive people's opinion about the character Daredevil. I mean, I've never heard anybody say that he's a terrible character. No. As a matter of fact, he's an awesome character. I mean, yeah, the whole thing with ninjas was basically Frank Miller. But a lot of the other stuff Daredevil's known for, other writers have done. Right? Be sure to get your facts straight before you talk about doing a top 10 thing about Daredevil. I always get my facts straight because I have a good memory about this stuff. Okay? But do I see you on my next video? Bye.